That orange Lambda sign is the logo that belongs to the game that many would say is one of the most important games in history. And its name is Half-Life.
No! I'm with the science!
In my ignorant mind, I really thought that Half-Life was just one of those games that people said was important because they really adored playing it, and because it's old. But exploring Half-Life is how I really came to understand the game and the hype behind it. So why is it so hyped? Well, in order to understand Half-Life, we first need to understand a little of where the game came from, as this will give us more of a base to really understand the game as a whole. So being brief about it, this is how Half-Life came to be. At the very beginning in 1996, there was two Microsoft employees, Gabe Newell and Mike Harrington, and that's not two total, that's just these two. Imagine if Microsoft was just like, two people. Well, anyway, after seeing their fellow Microsoft employee, Michael Abrash, leave the company to go work on Quake with its software, they decided that they wanted to create their own game company, named Valve. This name was chosen so that they wouldn't be overly extreme. Their first project was codenamed Quiver. This is most likely due to the engine it was being created on. This engine was called id Tech 2, or more commonly known as the Quake engine. This would eventually lead to the modification of the Quake engine, allowing them more freedom with how the game was meant to be designed. Remember this, as it's going to be important later on in the video. After the prototype of the game being described as nothing special and looking more like a Quake mod than its own game, they then started from scratch, with it eventually evolving into the story about Gordon Freeman and Black Mesa that we know as Half-Life. While that wasn't the most detailed summary of Half-Life's beginning, that should be more than enough to understand the rest of the video, and where better to start than the beginning of the game.
Good morning, and welcome to the Black Mesa Transit System. This automated train is provided for the security and convenience of the Black Mesa Research Facility personnel.
That intro is already something that was incredibly groundbreaking for gaming, as in the 90s, FPS games didn't really have much story. Well, they did, but not really proper storytelling like we know it today. Games like Duke Nukem 3D and Blood managed to pull off a bit of storytelling, but considering I can't properly summarize either of those games' stories, it wasn't that great. And Blood's cutscenes were kinda terrible. But back to Half-Life. You can't leave the confines of this tram, and yeah, these days segments like this in games are pretty boring and annoying to get through, but when Half-Life was released it hadn't been seen before. This segment's important to the game in general because it allows the developers to set up much of what the game's going to be like in terms of Black Mesa. I feel like this prevents Black Mesa from just becoming a backdrop to the game and made it more of a genuine part of the game's story. In fact, the entire first level as a whole gets you used to Black Mesa, and it also introduces you to one of the most important and innovative aspects of this game. The NPCs.
I'm with the science team!
Now dear viewer, I am not talking about you. I'm in fact talking about these guys.
Morning, Mr. Freeman. Looks like you're running late.
In pretty much every other FPS game at the time, anybody you came into contact with was most likely trying to kill you. But in Half-Life there's scientists and security guards everywhere, especially in this opening.
Please, leave me alone until after the experiment.
And in the first couple of levels, the game tries to more so demonstrate the purposes of these characters. Scientists can open doors and also give you syringes to heal you if you're on low health.
I am a doctor.
And the security guards can open certain locked doors and aid you in combat. We also get introduced to the HEV suit, which kinda acts like armor in other games similar to this, but also lets you know when you're on low health and when you run out of ammo.
Major fracture detected. Ammunition depleted.
But yeah, whilst I was explaining all that, we kinda had an accident and So yeah, we didn't die, we're fine. All these guys though, nah, they died. HEV suit can't save me from drowning, but it can save me from this, I guess. Here's where we see one of the most iconic weapons in gaming history, a literal crowbar.
We're almost there, Freeman.
You'll be needing this as it can help you open boxes, and in this first area, deal with, well, what is that? I don't even know what that is.
Minor lacerations detected.
The zombie. He moves about slowly, tries to hit you, but he isn't that big of a deal. He's more of an annoyance than anything. Let's take a moment to hate this game's platforming, because sometimes it's just terrible. So, picture this, right? I get off the elevator, walking about, breaking stuff with the crowbar, you know how it goes, until, BAM! Shotgun. boom, boom, boom. This is one of my favourite parts of the game. Not necessarily the most powerful weapon, but it does deal with most lower level enemies, such as the Voiter gun here. You're not meant to be there. Question, sir, how are you still alive?
I seem to be wounded, but I don't
No,
think
you're
I
just
can
gonna cut me
last
off.
much.
Well, I'm leaving you here.
I suspect. You are from the anomalous materials.
Now would be a great time to mention why they had to modify the Quake engine. You see, Quake's engine didn't have the ability to properly do skeletal animation, at least that's what I found from my research, and the game's engine was modified to accommodate for that. And the way the characters mouth move when they speak is also a pretty groundbreaking thing that this game did, as when certain members of the team figured out how to do this, the rest of the team was in shock that this was possible. Now, all is going well. The military have been called to contain what's happened at Black Mesa, but unfortunately, this means they have to cover it up. And to do that, they need to kill everybody who works there. And that leads to us doing the unthinkable, shooting them back. We get introduced to a couple things here. Trip mines, which we can later use ourselves, and the turrets, which are pretty easy to disable. Oh, and also the grunts. The grunts are pretty basic soldier enemies. They can throw grenades or launch them from an underslung grenade launcher, and can also shoot you normally. Joke's on them though, because I picked up the assault rifle as well, which does the exact same thing theirs does. So a quick editor's note here, in the original version of the game this is actually an SMG, I'm just playing the version that's using the newer models from the DLCs I'm pretty sure. Honestly, I prefer the SMG over the assault rifle. Soon it came to my attention that the military was the least of my problems, because I got introduced to the first real boss in Half-Life, the Tentacle. He can't be killed using normal means, so we have to literally cook him alive. But to do that, we need to get past him. But wait, what's this? He's attracted to sound and can't actually see you. We throw the grenade so that he gets distracted and stops trying to kill us, and then we go turn on all the power for the big jet that is conveniently underneath. I found a revolver in this bit here. This weapon is a godsend and is genuinely pretty powerful. Anyway, walking around this corner and... wait, is that another boss? Bruh. This boss you can actually kill through normal means though. We just don't have the ammo nor the weapons to do so at this moment. Our goal is to turn on the power to this place. The military tries to stop us, but no way buddy, I'm Gordon Freeman. Alright, I've got... yeah. What? So the power's back on, and now all we have to do is lead this massive moron so we can literally fry him. So remember earlier, trams are pretty cool, right?
Wrong.
This next level takes place almost exclusively on a tram line, with us stopping every now and then to fight the enemies out of the side.
You're supposed to take this old rail system up to some kind of satellite delivery rocket. I don't know where it is exactly, and the old guy was so worried about getting out of here alive, he didn't tell me. Main thing is, he said something about a Lambda team needing the satellite in orbit if they were ever going to clean up this mess.
Problem is, I genuinely despise this level. Now, going through one Google search, and I managed to determine that pretty much everybody else doesn't like this either. The level's called On a Rail, and people really seem to think it's the worst thing on the planet. Although this is probably more of a Doom 3 situation where people haven't actually given it a proper chance. Anyway, here's why I don't like it. Moving on the tram sucks. It's easy to get put into positions where you didn't really have a chance at all, and this. Yeah, that rocket launcher thingy. I hate this thing with a passion. It's not all bad though. Some combat areas in this level are actually really fun. And we do get to watch a rocket launch at the end, which is a really cool set piece. Thank God that thing is gone. I never want to see another tram again. Swimming through this little bit brings us to here. See that scientist? He's suffering from not being good enough at the game. I did.
They said it was hauled from the Challenger Deep, but I'm positive that beast never swam in terrestrial waters until a week ago. There's a tranquilizer gun in the shark cage, but I'm not sure it would work on this species. You're welcome to try.
I'm doing it. And it worked.
Freeman, right? I've got a message for you. Make sure you don't...
This is the introduction of one of the most annoying enemies on the planet, the Black Ops soldiers. They are incredibly fast and difficult to hit. They also have a lot of health, and along with those two, they are also really, really damaging. Moving past that though, we come to this little health thing on the wall, and... Gordon gets taken by the enemy soldiers, and instead of turning you in, they then decide to put you into a trash compactor, which is very easily escaped, because someone conveniently placed a bunch of boxes that are just perfect for jumping up here. However, they did take all of our weapons. Did I just walk into Doom 3? Who's this guy? It doesn't matter, I killed him anyway. Unfortunately, my first impressions of him being really easy was wrong, because this is one of the tougher enemies in the game when he's actually given a chance to defend himself. To be honest, this whole level actually reminded me of certain bits in Doom 3, especially with all the unfinished experiments and stuff that we can mess about with. Please don't stand there. Oops. Our goal here is to find some scientists so that we can open the front door. After some confused wandering due to being lost, I found them. I waited for the scientist to slowly follow me up to the door, and then he opens the door, letting me out. Welcome to the Great Outdoor. Whoa, is that a helicopter? Yeah, this entire level is us trying to escape this helicopter. And I get it, the game needs to have some sort of gimmick to keep it interesting as you play along. See here, we get the rocket launcher, and I assumed that we'd have to kill the helicopter with it, but nah, it just didn't come back. This guy here was trying to talk to me, but I had really low health, so I didn't hear a word of what he said. See, I needed that health back. My first thought here was to throw a grenade and explode them so I could get past. But it kept killing me, so I gave up and tried to maneuver around them. I soon found out why it kept killing me, and it's because the entire building was covered in them. So you really have to make sure you don't trip any of them, because you'll have to restart the entire thing. See, when you find this security guard here, don't let him die. Because if he survives, you can open up this room that is absolutely filled with all of the items you will ever need. After a bunch more fighting, we've now arrived at the Lambda complex. And this is also where the game sees a huge difficulty spike, with a lot bigger enemies being paired with the vortigaunts from earlier, leading to some really difficult parts of the game. We also get introduced to teleportation, both introducing a new mechanic in a kind of safer area.
Warning. Hazardous radiation.
And allowing the story to justify teleporting us to a new dimension. Wait, what? But wait, don't get ahead of yourself, because first we find the survivors who are waiting for us here at Lambda Complex. They give us this long jump thing, and I didn't know how to use it at first, but when I figured it out, it was pretty simple. It basically lets you jump really far forward really quickly. And yeah, so we can get to that other dimension I mentioned, we have to defend the scientist while he opens it up. And this was a pretty frustrating part of the game, I can't lie.
It's ready! We must go! Now!
Welcome to Zen. This is where the aliens are supposed to have come from, and I honestly don't really like the closing parts of this game that much. I think as a world building thing, they really are a great part of the story, but gameplay wise they're just frustrating and pretty boring if I'll be honest. We start off here by having to use a long jump to jump across these incredibly slow moving platforms. which takes us to this. This is the second worst boss fight in the game. At first it was great and I actually was having a lot of fun with it, and then it started getting pretty irritating, especially when it started spawning these things that prevent you from moving properly. However, he is not the worst, that's still yet to come. Once we've killed that thing, we then make our way through into what seems like one of their factories. I cannot describe my boredom in this segment, and due to that I don't really have a lot to say apart from it was boring. I mean, the environment looks pretty cool, but apart from that... Now, we get to the final boss of Half-Life. Anyway, why is this boss fight so terrible? Well, the reason is because it's very poorly conveyed how you're supposed to beat it. I, for one, spent most of my time constantly shooting it in the head, assuming that's what would kill it, but that did not work. And well, what you're actually supposed to do is shoot these crystals and then shoot him in the head until it opens up. Once it does, you can get on the bouncy things and fire rockets into his head until he dies. Once he's dead, we are met by this mysterious figure. Now, if you paid attention throughout the game, you will have noticed him in pretty much every level, watching what you're doing from the sidelines.
The border world, Zen, is in our control for the time being, thanks to you. Quite a nasty piece of work you managed over there. I am impressed. That's why I'm here, Mr. Freeman. I have recommended your services to my employers, and they have authorized me to offer you a job. They agree with me that you have limitless potential. You've proved yourself a decisive man, so I don't expect you'll have any trouble deciding what to do.
Now, he gives you a choice. You either do what he says and you accept the job offer, or you die a horrible death. If you choose to not accept his offer and stay in the tram, then you're teleported to here. And yeah, he wasn't lying. There's no way you can win this. But if you accept the offer, then you hop into the portal and await an assignment. A great way to set up for a Half-Life 2. Half-Life is a really special game, and I think nearly every one of you will agree. I know I didn't really understand it at first, but now that I've played the game, I really see what it's all about. It is a game that set the foundations for a lot of what the video game industry was to become, so much that people still talk about it to this day, and make jokes about the small chance of there being a Half-Life 3. Despite its rather lackluster ending, I think that everybody should play Half-Life at least once. I for one really enjoyed my time with Half-Life, and I now see what made it so special.